Today I'm canning cranberry sauce, and I'm going to do this two ways. I'm going to do some jellied cranberry sauce, and then I'm going to do some whole berry. If you've never had homemade cranberry sauce, it is 100 times better than store-bought. The store-bought just has a bitter taste to it. This doesn't end up bitter at all. I'm going to do the jellied first, and for this I'm doubling the recipe. I have 8.5 cups of cranberries in here that I washed and drained, and then I added 3.5 cups of water, and I'm following the Ball Blue Book's recipe. So I just need to bring this to a boil and cook it until the skins pop. Okay, the skins have popped, so I'm going to remove this from the heat and let it cool down a little bit before I put it through my food strainer. I'm separating this water from the berries because I'm not running this water through my food meal. I also want to get rid of as many of those little seeds as I can. So I'm using the berry screen on my food meal. While I'm waiting for the cranberries to cool down, I thought that I would answer a question that usually comes up whenever I use this food strainer. And that is, what is the difference between a food mill and this food strainer, and wouldn't the stainless steel food mill be better than that? And I know what you're talking about, and I have one of those too. And this is usually called a Foley mill. And I bought this 29 years ago to make cranberry sauce, as a matter of fact. And believe me, this thing is a piece of junk. It doesn't work. Yeah, it's stainless steel, built to last forever, unfortunately, but it just doesn't work. And what you're supposed to do is put the food in and turn the crank, and then this blade will smash the food and force it through the holes in the bottom. But unfortunately, what it does is it smashes the food up in there. Some of it happens to go through, but not all that much. And you have to keep turning it in one direction and then turn it back in the other direction to unclog the mess. And then there's just an extreme amount of waste with this, and it will frustrate you to no end. You'll tear up your entire kitchen trying to get this to work. You'll pull out the colander and the blender and everything in the world. It doesn't work. This thing here does everything you want it to, does it easily. And there's separate screens that you can buy for it. It comes with one for making like applesauce and tomato sauce, and the one that I'm going to use today is the berry screen. It will strain out the small seeds, or the majority of them. So you'll see how that works. Okay, I put the cranberries in the hopper. Now I'm going to turn the crank, and the pulp will come out here, and the seeds and peels will come out there. Here's the peels and seeds. It's good and dry. It does a great job of pulling all the pulp out of things. Okay, I have all the pulp strained out, and I've added it with all the water here. Now I'm going to add 4 cups of sugar. Now I'm going to mix this all together, and then I'm going to bring it to a boil until it almost reaches the gelling point. Okay, I'm up to a boil now, and to check for the gelling point, when it starts to boil, if you put some on a spoon, keep it away from the steam, it just kind of pours off the spoon. When it gets to be like large chunks coming off the spoon, then that'll be right near the gelling point. That's where I want to take it. And I have a thermometer on here too. Gelling point is 210, so I can tell by the thermometer when I get close. And I'm going to skim some of this foam off of here. Okay, I've cooked this for, I don't know, about 20 minutes, and you can see it's thickened up. It's like a thick sauce. And it kind of clumps off the spoon. So now I'm going to can it up. Okay, the sauce is ready. I have my jars hot and ready, and my lids and rings at a simmer. I take a hot jar, And I fill it with the cranberry sauce. I want to leave a 1/4 inch of headspace. Then I'll wipe the rim of the jar clean. Add a hot lid, a hot ring. I heat my rings, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Tighten it firmly, then I'm going to set it in the canner to stay warm till I have all the jars full. Now I have my jars full. I'm going to drop this rack down into the canner, put the lid on, and when the water comes back to a boil, I'll start my processing time. These jars need to be processed for 15 minutes, but if you live at high altitudes, you'll have to adjust that time to suit your altitude. When the processing time was complete, I turned off the heat, removed the lid, and let the pot sit for 5 minutes. Now I'm going to take the jars out of the canner and set them on the towel on the counter to cool. Tomorrow I'll remove the rings, wash the jars, write cranberry sauce on the top, and the date that I canned them. The recipe said that you would get 2 pints from this recipe. I doubled it and I got 5 half pints and a little bit extra in this jar here. So you lose some to the strainer and the fact that you removed the peels and the seeds and all of that. So that's why I doubled this recipe. Now I'm going to make the whole berry version. I'm going to take 4 cups of water and 4 cups of sugar and bring that to a boil. Okay, I've boiled the water and sugar for 5 minutes. Now I'm going to add 8 cups of cranberries. And I'm going to boil these until the skins pop. They say you're supposed to do this without stirring it, but if you don't, then the ones on the top aren't going to get down in the liquid to get hot. Okay, the cranberry sauce is ready. I have my jars hot and ready, and my lids and rings at a simmer. I take a hot jar and I fill it with the cranberry sauce, leaving a 1/4 inch headspace. And this, the whole berry sauce is a whole lot easier to make than the jellied version. Of course, the person that cooks it likes this version better. The ones that eat it want the jelly version. So I'll remove the air bubbles and wipe the rim of the jar clean. Add a hot lid and a hot ring and tighten it firmly. And I set it in the canner to stay warm until all the jars are full. Once again, now that all the jars are full, I'm going to drop the rack down into the canner, put the lid on, and when the water comes back to a boil, then I'm going to process these jars for 15 minutes. When the processing time was complete, I turned off the heat, removed the lid, and let the canner sit for at least 5 minutes. I pulled the rack up so that it'll be easier to pull these jars out. So now I'm going to take the jars out, set them on a towel on the counter to cool. And once again, tomorrow I'll remove the rings, wash the jars, write cranberry sauce on the top, and the date that I canned them. So this is what I ended up with: 9 half pints of the whole berry cranberry sauce and 5 half pints of the jellied. It hasn't been all that long since I made this, and I had a piece of a jar of the jellied left, so I dumped it out on the plate so that you could see how that sets up. The longer it cools, the more it'll set, but you can see you get a good set out of doing it this way. and the whole berry, this is still warm, but that'll set up as well as it cools. And the rest of the cranberries I'll chop up in my chop wizard and throw them on the dehydrator and dehydrate them. And this is the way they turn out, and I use those in muffins and things like that. And it works best if you rehydrate them before you add them to your muffin mix, or if not, they'll pull all the moisture out of your muffins. You can also make cranberry sauce from the dehydrated. Take half a cup of dehydrated cranberries, 1.5 cups of water, and 3/4 cup of sugar, and just boil them for about 20 to 25 minutes. And it makes good cranberry sauce. So that's how I make cranberry sauce. And don't forget, this thing is a piece of junk. Hope it helps.